What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for joining me for another episode where I get to sit down with more incredible humans and learn about their deeper story. On this episode, I sit down with one of the most vivacious people I've met in the CrossFit space. You know her, you love her, you definitely recognize her by her long curly hair. It is the three-time semifinalist, Ellia Miller. On this episode, we go into what she's been up to over the past 8 or 9 months. The last time we saw her competing at Wadapalooza in Miami. And from there, she dealt with not one, not two, but three injuries that have now kind of led her to this shift from full-time athlete to going into the workforce full time. We talk about her time served in the military. We talk about how she's making that transition from something that she studied long ago in college to now trying to use that degree in sciences for working in the real world. And we just talk about the journey and everything she's been through, and also a little bit about the pulse of the ecosystem in CrossFit. Make sure you guys like the channel, subscribe, help it grow. And without any further ado, let's welcome in Ellia. Ellia Miller. Oh my God, it's been too long. And remember when somebody told me that your name was Ellia?
Oh man. Yeah. I'm
Never
surprised that
forget.
anybody in CrossFit knows how to say my name at this point.
Ellia Miller. She's been to semifinals 3 times. She's super involved in the community. Started CrossFit around 2013, 2014, and now you're in the state of recovery, we'll call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. January, Wadapalooza. That was the last time that I competed. Um, the last time I seriously trained. And then went out there for Elite Team of Three. And very first event doing heavy overhead squats. Uh, Tore my UCL in my right elbow. Yeah. And then thought that was going to be what stunted my season. But got back to the gym, tried to train as much as I could. I was like, I can try to like get through open. Maybe I'll be recovered in time by, I guess, what was it this year? It would have just been straight to semifinals or in person finals. I don't even remember anymore.
Yep, or online.
Yeah. So I was like, well, if I can like get through the open, maybe that'll be enough time to heal. And still trying to train for a competitive season with a torn elbow. I ended up tearing a tendon in my wrist on my left hand and had to get surgery. And I've been
So opposite
recovering from
sides?
that ever since. Yeah. So I used my right arm after I tore my elbow. And then still like trying to keep up intensity, keep up training as much as I could to be ready to go. And when my elbow was okay, I was doing a lot of single arm stuff on my left side. And I think it was just an overuse injury. I developed a ganglion cyst on my left wrist. Um, it was pretty painful for a couple weeks. And then the worst part is it happened uh, while I was driving home from my orthopedic surgeon the day that I found out that I wasn't going to need surgery on my elbow. So I was like, oh, great news. The elbow is good to go. And then I was driving home. Weathering strip on the top of my car started coming off. So I pulled over and I reached up to press it down. And as I was pressing down, it was like Rice Krispies in my wrist. It popped like 7 or 8 times, searing pain. And then
Oh
I
my
could
God.
extend the tip of my thumb. So I called the doctor and I was like, hey, elbow's good, but now I got another issue. So I went back a week later and he was like, yep, that's a complete tear. So I tore my uh, EPL, I think. It's the tendon in your like wrist and thumb that extends the tip of your thumb. So I had to get surgery to have that repaired.
Well, they say bad things happen in threes, and you are really a testament to the reality of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you break a mirror
So
before that all happened, or, like, what was going on
maybe
in your
I rolled
life?
up a ladder. I don't know. No, I think, and I've had a lot of time to think about this. And I think I'm 33. I'm old for a CrossFit athlete at this point. And I I really wanted to like make CrossFit work for me as like a full-time athlete, professional athlete, career, whatever. Um, but I think I was getting past the point where that was possible. And I
Mm,
don't think I would have stopped on my own. Um, and I believe that everything happens for a reason.
me too.
I don't know if it's like I'm not a religious person. I'm not like I wouldn't consider myself to have like a ton of faith or anything like that, but I do just believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think this was the universe making me realize that it was time to move on.
Mm.
So I think I needed a little bit of external factors to get me there.
I know you say you've obviously had a long time to think about it, almost a full calendar year at this point, but was there a moment that these ideas or thoughts started to creep in that, okay, maybe being a professional athlete isn't my journey, and maybe there is a different path for me?
I mean, the last off season, after semifinals last year, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. I felt really good going to semifinals, and then not making the games that year. I was like, well, maybe maybe I'm still getting better. I don't know, and maybe there's still a shot next year. But I was getting to a point where it was like, okay, I am starting to get quote unquote old for CrossFit. Uh, it's really hard to keep up with the 19 and 20-year olds. um,
Yeah.
and my body just hurts all the time. I feel like I'm losing a little bit of intensity. Um, and I still felt very fit, but I felt like the progress that I was making, the younger athletes coming up were making double that progress in the same amount of time. And I was just like falling further and further behind. Um, and then that combined with, there's not really a great infrastructure to make a competitive CrossFit athlete a career right now. Like you can maybe get some sponsorships. Like obviously, a lot of the top athletes have these massive, sponsorships outside of CrossFit that allow them to continue training full time, being a competitive athlete. But uh, that's they're few and far between. And I had a lot of really great sponsors that were working with me, but it was all, we can give you product or we can help you
Yeah.
cover the cost of your competitions, but none of that was like a day-to-day paycheck to survive.
Paying bills,
Yeah, and so,
saving money.
for a year and a half, I was living in a tiny house in my coach's front yard and making $500 a month, and it just was not sustainable anymore. I was tired of being broke all the time, barely being able to afford groceries and gas, like um, not even being able to go to a competition unless I was able to get it covered by sponsors. And like not being able to do what I'm trying to do as a career because I can't afford it seems backwards.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I think it was a lot of things combined of like, I've had a really great time doing what I've done in CrossFit. I really enjoy competing. I'm so proud of how far I did make it. I never thought that I would actually be like fighting for a game spot. I was just trying to make it to semifinals in the first place, and then to make it 3 times, actually be competitive a couple times at semifinals. Like that's big. So
It's huge.
it's hard. Like, yeah, I'm probably never gonna make it to the CrossFit Games because I'm moving past, full-time athlete mindset. But I still made it a lot farther than I probably ever could have imagined. So, like, on one hand, it's a little disappointing. On the other hand, it still has been really fulfilling. Um, and I think it was an appropriate time in my life to be doing it. But I think
Mhm.
that time has passed.
If you could, would there be anything along that journey that you would have changed? Or, I mean, there's only so much time in a day, and when you're trying to be a competitive athlete, like, there's not a lot of time to get a side job or, other ways of income, but just now that you're a little bit removed from it, is there anything that you would have done different?
I would have started earlier. I feel like that would have been really the only thing that maybe could have changed the outcome a little bit. If I had started at 19 instead of 29. Or maybe even like early 20s instead of late 20s. But it's just, I didn't really, I didn't hit my stride in CrossFit until my late 20s. And by that point, it was like, it felt very rushed. When I first moved to Kansas to like really pursue full-time CrossFit, I was already 29, almost 30. And I was like, I got to do something right now. Like, I'm running out of time. The clock's ticking. And that was at the beginning of my, competitive career.
Yeah.
So it was I already felt like I was on a clock. Um, so the experiences that I had and, what I did during my competitive uh, career, I guess, um, I would have changed it because I don't think that I would have gotten to where I did if I did anything different. I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I had, which is that I worked with the athletes that I got to train with, uh, the competitions that I got to experience, the people that I got to meet. Um, it's it was a really, really good few years, and I'm very grateful, and I wouldn't want to change it except to maybe give myself a couple more years of it.
But I think there's a realness about that because we do talk about how, there's limited funds in the ecosystem, and especially with the way of the ecosystem right now, you have the game season, you have the WFP season, you have the off-season comps like the Rogues, Dubai's, Wadapalooza. Do you think that there is a way for more athletes to make it as a professional athlete in the CrossFit ecosystem? Because right now, I mean, you can't even say that the top 30 men and women that were at the games are making a full-time wage off of it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like, there was a period of time where there were, I think, enough outside sponsors investing in CrossFit and investing in CrossFit athletes that it was possible. But I get the sense that that time has passed. Um, there's a lot of brands in the space now that they don't really support athletes like monetarily the way that they used to because they never saw the return on investment. Um, they're giving money to these athletes like I had brands giving money to me to go compete, and I'm doing what I can. I'm wearing their logo on the competition floor and posting on Instagram for them, but what's that really doing for them? Like, it's
Did brands
it's
ever
not
talk to you
much.
about what, like, the return on investment was for stuff like that? Because you do see so many athletes, and I'm talking about outside of, the top 10 to 20 at the games. It's like 20 down who have these sponsors or partners. What is that relationship like? Is it mostly just free merch or free gifting of product and paying for registration more than like putting somebody on a retainer or something like that in a contract?
Yeah, I have never had like a, "Hey, we're gonna pay you monthly to be our athlete." Um, I've had I've had a couple of contracts that were product based. So, getting monthly or quarterly products, supplements, clothes, things like that. I've had a lot more that weren't even a contract. It was just kind of like a handshake deal, like um, just having a relationship with the brands. And it would be, I'd qualify for a competition and I'd reach out and I'd say, "Hey, I qualified for this competition. I'd love to have your support. I would love to represent you on the competition floor. Um, is there any chance that you're willing to help?" And um, most of the time, the brands that I had those good relationships with would say, "Hey, yeah, we can cover your flight, or we can cover your registration, or we can give you this much at a hotel, or whatever it is." And all of those things combined together, I could get support from 7 or 8 different brands, and that would pay for a competition. Um,
Yeah.
but competing is expensive, and um, in my very first clothing sponsorship, they told me they gave me a referral link, and they would track my sales, and they told me that the support they would give me for semifinals would be based on the amount of sales I made. Um,
Mm.
so at the time, I think I had like 2 or 3 thousand followers on Instagram. Right now, I'm only at like 5, so it's still not enough to be an influencer or actually like generating revenue through these referral links. And I honestly don't know how much sales I actually generated. I don't think it was a ton. But they still supported me at semifinals. They were still very good to me. But that kind of fizzled out because I felt like I couldn't provide what they were looking for, and um, I don't think that they were unhappy with me, but it was just like they weren't getting the return on investment.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it wasn't like bad blood or anything. It just kind of fizzled out. And I kind of moved on to some different companies, and it was also hard for me because I always felt like I wasn't able to do enough for the brands for what they were giving me or providing me. Like, um, giving me free product or sending me to competitions, things like that. And like I said, I'm doing what I can. I'm wearing their logo on the floor. I'm promoting their product. I'm giving people referral links, whatever. But I still just felt like uh, I felt uncomfortable asking for help for competitions or asking for
Yeah.
product or whatever it was because I didn't feel like I was doing enough to justify them giving me what they gave me.
Well, I definitely don't think you should feel bad. Anybody that meets you knows how lovely and vivacious and caring and supportive you are, and genuine, truly genuine, and the products that you're wearing, you of course, yeah, you're trying to make this a living, but you're not just reaching out to everybody and anybody to say, "Hey, help me, help me." It's products that you do already believe in. And I know that about you, so I can say that and feel confident about that. But I'm curious then when we look at the season, because when you and I used to do Death by together, one of the topics we would talk about is, what does an ideal season look like, or how many off-season competitions should there be? Now that we've seen a couple more iterations, and you have, like I said, the game season, WFP, the off-season events, like, is it better to have more options and not really an off season where athletes can somewhat pick and choose? Or would it be better to have bigger prize purses, maybe paying out further down the leaderboard and having this condensed season where, okay, from this month to this month, there are no major CrossFit events where you can earn?
Having more options year round is probably better for the population that's trying to get to the point of it being a career. I think having that condensed season with bigger prize purses would be beneficial for people who are already in it, who are already making it a career, who already have the financial support to do that. But then for somebody who's not there yet, but they're trying to get there, um, they need more opportunities to, get that exposure, get a little bit of money here and there from prize purses, compete on bigger stages to not only get the exposure, but also get the experience. Um, their only opportunity to compete on that big of a stage is semifinals, trying to make it to the games. Um, that's a really hard spot to get that
Yeah.
experience and actually have it work for you, you know? Um, so I think having the bigger off-season competitions, like Wadapalooza, Rogue, Dubai, even some of the maybe a little bit smaller competitions that are starting to become bigger.
Like
I
Desert
think
City,
having
Monster Games, TFX. TFX has been around
yes,
forever, but
yeah,
some of those I look at as those are springboard competitions in my
yes.
opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a really good opportunity to have some experience competing on a pretty serious competition floor with very high level athletes. But the stakes are a little bit lower because it's not like, hey, this is my one shot this year to qualify for the games. Um, there's also like you look at NorCal. NorCal had an awesome prize purse. Um, and they've had that for years, even before they were a qualifying event for the games. And so I think having opportunities exist separate from the CrossFit season is really useful for people trying to get there. But I also think so, like the World Fitness Project, um, if that actually persists and becomes a stable um, option in the sport, I think that is also a really cool opportunity to say, hey, I, fought my way into the pro division, earned a pro card, and now I'm on contract next season. So I have a guaranteed, contracted salary that I'm going to make to go compete in the World Fitness Project next year. And like that is incredible to be able to say, hey, they're going to literally just pay me to be their athlete and compete in their competitions. You can't you can't get that in the current CrossFit season.
Yeah. With where you're at now, do you see yourself, once you're fully recovered and whether you jump back into training the way you used to, like, do you have any more aspirations to maybe, like you said, not be a professional athlete, but hey, I'm going to give like these couple of competitions a go, or where's the mindset? I think you also before were saying you wanted to throw your hat in the ring in grid league.
So I was supposed to be on a grid team this year, and that
Okay, yeah,
also
that's what I thought.
did not work out because of my elbow and my hand. But I was supposed to compete with the Houston Bandits this year. Um, I am actually signed up for a competition in October.
Congrats,
I'm
what one?
doing the Mountain West Fitness Championship in Idaho.
Oh yeah,
It's a partner
awesome.
competition. So I'm doing it with actually a girl that was on the Houston Bandits. Her name is Avery. Um, so we're gonna do this competition. That's kind of like my return to competition, test out where my recovery's at in like a low stress, low stakes competition. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's beginning of October. Um, and I still want to compete. Will
Mm.
always do CrossFit for the rest of my life. Um, and I do still love competing. I just am not in a position anymore to be a full-time lead, training full-time, um, 4 to 6 hours in the gym every day. Like I'm not in a spot to be doing that anymore. I'm actually in the application process for a new job.
Can you tell us what job you're applying for?
Yeah, so I am in I don't know if it's considered the application process or the hiring process. I'm going through a background investigation right now um,
Ooh, are they
to
gonna find
work.
anything?
No, come on, Lauren.
I know the answer, but I had to ask.
Um, so I'm in the background investigation for a position to be a DNA analyst at a crime lab for the state of California.
Wow, that is freaking so cool, and I can do you wear the white lab coat?
Probably, yeah.
I can already picture it. Because you love science. That was what you studied
Yes.
in school. What was your specific major? Like, what did you go to school for?
So I have a bachelor's degree in neurobiology, physiology, and behavior. And then I started a PhD program in neuroscience. I ended up
Oh, wow.
leaving the program with my master's degree. So I have a master's in neuroscience. And when I left my grad program, a big reason was because that was when I was starting to get into CrossFit and I was really, really passionate about competing. And I felt like that was my window to do it. So I left grad school so that I could pursue CrossFit. Um, and I'm glad I did it. And at the time, I thought that I was done with science, but over the past year or so, I've started to realize that I actually really do miss science, and I miss being in a lab. I miss the mental challenge of science. And CrossFit is this great physical challenge, and it can be a mental challenge in other ways for sure. Um, but I've always kind of been a nerd, and I miss being.
In the absolute best way possible.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into that. But that also means I'm going to be working full time. I'm going to have a real grown up job now. So
Probably with
I'm
health insurance and a 401k plan and a regular paycheck and, oh my gosh, PTO.
be amazing.
What a
I
time to
never
be
thought I
alive.
would be excited for health insurance.
Yeah, when I think about when I left television, and don't get me wrong, I'm so happy that I'm out of that industry, but sometimes when I get a bill for my health insurance or, like, I recently had lab work done and I saw how little my health insurance company paid for it, and I'm just like, "Man, why couldn't I just, like, suck it up and, like, work at a normal job where I get a regular paycheck and where, like, I paid $50 a month for health insurance?" And yeah, those perks, I mean, they're good.
Do you think that um, like, it's important to take the opportunities that you get. Like,
Mhm.
I'm very glad that I took the opportunity that I had to pursue CrossFit because if I hadn't done that and I stayed in science and never left, I think I would be, uh, I wouldn't realize how much I really enjoyed it because I never had time away to realize what life was like without it.
Yeah.
And so I think I appreciate it a lot more now, and I am a lot more excited now to get into like a regular job um, that I think would have been probably a lot more miserable if I hadn't taken the time to experience competitive CrossFit. And I think that I would have always also regretted not taking that opportunity. And I think that would have had probably a negative impact on my life as a whole, having regret.
Mhm. And you're obviously going to be the fittest person in that lab room. Like, if
I have heard
anybody
rumors that there's somebody else there that does CrossFit.
okay, see, it all comes back together, and now you're just gonna have a CrossFit friend, and you're gonna get everybody else involved in CrossFit, and you never know where the journey is gonna lead you from there, and everybody's gonna be like, "Damn, look at this girl, look at this YouTube video of her competing, look at her semifinals." It's gonna be great.
And I definitely still wanna compete as much as I can. I love competing, I always will. Like I said, I will always do CrossFit, but it's probably gonna be, taking a class at my local affiliate every day. It's not gonna be the hardcore training that I've done for however many years at this point. Uh, and, if my competition endeavors now become, "Hey, I'm gonna do this local competition next weekend," versus, "Hey, I'm gonna go compete in the elite division at Wadapalooza."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay with that. Maybe it'll be
So
cheaper
you're
too.
Yeah. It will be much cheaper, I can guarantee that. You were living in Nevada in the tiny house when you were working with, Sean Sweeney, so now you're in California. What part of California are you?
I'm in Modesto. I'm back with my parents, while I'm waiting for this, job application to work itself out, hopefully. Um, so I am back in Modesto with the intention to move to the Bay Area when hopefully this background investigation finishes up and I hopefully get an offer for a start date.
Do you have any idea of what their timeline is?
Tomorrow is the deadline for the investigator to turn in all his stuff. And last
Okay.
time I talked to him, he said he was on track to meet that deadline. So, beyond that, I don't know. He gives it to his supervisors. They review everything. They make a decision, and then I do know I had to take one more. I had to take a molecular biology course because the so the job that I will hopefully be doing is we maintain the state DNA database, which also gets fed into the national DNA database that the FBI maintains. So we have to also
Oh,
meet the FBI standards for a DNA analyst. And the way that they word it, it's based in semester units. And I went to a school that was on the quarter system. So,
mm,
the way that my biochemistry class was split up across 3 quarters instead of 2 semesters, one of those courses, the title is cell biology, which doesn't technically fulfill the requirement for the FBI, so they couldn't count that class.
okay.
So now I was half a unit short for, like, meeting the FBI standards. So I'm taking a molecular biology course online right now to fulfill that requirement, and that goes through the end of this month. And then I have to get through that class and send them my transcript. And then once they have my transcript and once the background investigation is done, I think they can offer me a start date at that point. But I'm not sure if there's anything else that comes after the investigation. That. So we'll see.
Okay, we're thinking like early holiday season potentially.
Hopefully, I think, right now, my guess is it could be a time between, like, November, December to maybe January, February.
Okay. And then you're gonna be helping solve crimes in California. How freaking cool is that?
I'm really excited.
I'm so excited for you. I mean, that's such a unique journey, and I think that it when you look back at your life, I'm sure that you will be grateful that you took a chance on yourself and you gave yourself an opportunity to see what your athletic career and abilities could take you. And then, of course, like any adult, at some point you realize your pockets might be a little bit empty. Sometimes we're forced to realize that, maybe by injuries, not 1, not 2, but 3. And I mean, it's tough, but I do also I really do believe everything happens for a reason. And like I said, you're such a light and a joy that anybody that gets to work with you is going to be so lucky. They don't even know it yet. So my fingers, my toes, I'll braid my hair tonight so everything's crossed so that you get this job.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
I'm very
yeah, go ahead.
excited to, like I said, I'm very excited that I had the opportunities that I did and the experiences that I did in CrossFit, and I'm very excited that there is now an opportunity for me to do something that I'm passionate about, um, beyond CrossFit.
There's a lot of diversity that you can have in your life and still be fulfilled. Doesn't need to all be in one bucket.
I
And
agree.
speaking of that, you also judged at NorCal, and I gotta hear how that went for you. And like, w- did you just want to be out there and you're like, okay, I guess like this is an opportunity for me to still be involved in. We know you're somebody that gives back and you're involved in a lot of things, also the Rise Foundation. And this is just like another hat you're wearing. And I would just love to hear that story of you judging out there because I'm sure you knew a lot of the people as well.
So, I did the qualifier for NorCal in January, right before Wadapalooza.
Okay.
The deadline for the workouts was like 3 days after Wadapalooza, so I actually had plans to come back from Wadapalooza and redo 1 or 2 of the workouts.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah. Instead, I came back from Wadapalooza and got an MRI.
Yay.
But anyway, so I did the NorCal qualifier in January. I ended up qualifying in the division. I got my invitation 2 or 3 weeks after I tore my elbow. So I had emailed Blair and I was like, "Hey, like, I really appreciate the opportunity. I got injured at Wadapalooza and I don't have an appointment with the orthopedic surgeon for another like 6 weeks, and that's when I'll find out if I'm gonna need surgery or not and whether or not I even have a season this year.
Mhm.
So like, can I hold off on accepting or not accepting my invite until I have an answer from my doctor?" And he was like, "Well, we'll have to offer your qualifier spot to the next person in line on the qualifier leaderboard." He said, "But we are going to be inviting additional athletes, and we can save an invitation for you if your doctor says you're good to go." So um, I go see the doctor. He tells me I'm not going to need surgery. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I will be able to compete. But then, like I said, that was the same day that
Uh-huh.
tore my tendon in my thumb. I actually had kind of forgotten about NorCal in all the craziness of that. And then
Yeah.
a couple weeks after my surgery, I think they sent out an email saying they were looking for more judges. And so I followed up with Blair. I was like, "Hey, I just realized I completely forgot to follow up with you on this. Fortunately, I ended up getting surgery for something completely different. So I won't be able to compete, but if you still need judges, I would love to judge." Um, I just wanted to be there. I love
Yeah.
CrossFit events. I love getting to go see all my friends. I knew a ton of people that were going to be there competing, spectating, judging, whatever. Um, and I just wanted to be there. So he was like, yeah, we'd love to have you. So I got brought in as a judge. And let me tell you, oh, I have so much respect for judges.
What was
That
the
was,
hardest part? Like, and was it what you
oh,
expected?
all of it was hard. It was like 14-hour days. Um, there there weren't enough judges to be swapping in and out and getting a ton of breaks. So I think the first day, the only time I got a break was when there happened to be nobody assigned to my lane. Um,
Mm,
so that I think that was like 14 hours straight, just in the heat, on your feet, and like mentally stressing, trying to count reps, trying to make sure you're identifying no reps,
yeah.
trying not to end up in a YouTube video somewhere.
You don't wanna be
Um,
on that. I think you didn't end up. There were no clips of you as a
no,
bad
I
judge.
didn't. But
In
then
the
it was
clear.
also, yeah, it was stressful. It happens so fast, and being able to, count, watch for good reps, make sure you know the workout flow, what comes next, all that
Yeah,
stuff. Like it's a lot and it's exhausting. Um, it's hot. It was very hot at NorCal. Um, and for the elite division all the way down to, I think they had what, a beginner or a novice division, whatever they called it.
uh-huh,
Um, like that experience and that opportunity is just as important to those novice and scaled athletes as it is to the elite athletes.
yeah,
And it's almost harder to judge the novice and scaled and intermediate divisions because for them, like, they don't get to do this very often. And
mm,
for a lot of them, it was their first time, and I don't wanna be the person responsible for making their first competition experience a horrible experience because they got a bad no rep or whatever. And so there's a lot of pressure there, because I know how much I love competing, and I want other people to be able to experience that same love for it. And if their first competition experience is bad because they had a bad judge and they never get to, like, they lose their passion for wanting to experience that anymore, that would suck. And I don't want to be
yeah.
responsible for that. So it was
Sucks.
really stressful.
Would you do it
But
again?
yeah,
Okay, okay. Any events
it
out
was
there, you need a judge, your girl, your girl,
it was
Aaliyah.
still really fun, and, like, the people that I met were amazing. Obviously, Ben and Blair, the event organizers, and then also, like, all of the team leads, all of the other judges, all of the other volunteers, like, everybody was amazing, and then meeting athletes on the floor was super cool. I actually had a couple athletes that I judged that were like, "Oh my gosh, we can't believe you're our judge. Can we get a picture with you?" And that was
Oh, that's
insane to me.
awesome. Yeah.
And so it was like, I feel like it was a cool experience all around. So stressful and exhausting, but really cool.
Okay, good to know. I feel like it's so interesting because, like, and being an athlete and competing has all of these very, very different stressors. But when you get done with the workout, you can go relax, you can
Mhm.
recover, you can eat, you can take a nap, you can have somebody rub your body, you can do all of these things. When you're working the event, it's like, no, there's sometimes no breaks. If you got to go to the bathroom, you better be able to do it in under 2 minutes. Like, we got to go, we got to go.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would have been less stressed competing than I was judging.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was still fun though.
Okay, and you might do it again, so you never know. You never know. Speaking of things that, you never know if you'll do them. Um, I know that in college you did ROTC, which I'm going to put a pin in that because I have a follow-up question to that. But you were in the California Army National Guard. Did you ever have an interest to pursue that as a career? Sorry, I know we're kind of going all over the place because we were talking about career before.
Yeah. I did ROTC in college, commissioned into the California Army National Guard when I graduated college. I was in the California Guard for a couple years. I ended up transferring to the New Jersey National Guard when I moved to New Jersey for grad school. And I actually deployed with um, one of my New Jersey units. I got
Oh, okay.
out
I don't think I knew that.
in, yeah, that was 2019. I spent 2019 in Qatar in the Middle East. Um, I so actually when I came back from that deployment, I came back to COVID. We got
Oh, yeah.
like I think late December or early January of 2019, 2020. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Um, just training CrossFit, applying to jobs, didn't know what I was going to do. Then I was activated by the New Jersey National Guard for COVID. So I spent 14 months. I was the deputy commander of a joint task force that was supporting long-term care facilities in the state of New Jersey, and I was the state medical planner for the state of New Jersey during COVID. And
I can
then,
only imagine what that was like.
yeah, that was 14 months full-time National Guard while I was back stateside after having just done 9 months full-time Army in Qatar. Um, and I actually had an opportunity to pursue a full-time position, like a permanent full-time position with the National Guard in New Jersey. Um, but that was also at the time where I did quarterfinals that year and finished like 100 spots out from qualifying for semifinals. And I
Mhm.
really, really wanted to pursue competitive CrossFit. So that was when I found the coach in Kansas who agreed to work with me. And I turned down a full time job opportunity in the New Jersey National Guard to move to Kansas and do CrossFit. Um, and at the time, my intention was to transfer from the New Jersey National Guard to the Kansas National Guard. And I was going to be going into a recruiting unit in the Kansas National Guard so that I could be uh, on the Army Warrior Fitness team. And that would be my job for the Army was to
Yep.
represent the team, go compete, all that kind of stuff. Um, there were plans that was going to happen. And then, as the Army does, they changed the plans. And they
Mm.
wanted me to take command of a rear detachment for field artillery that was deployed. So
I'm sorry, for what?
a field artillery unit that was going to
Okay.
deploy. So the unit was going to deploy, but then there's a rear detachment, which is like the group of soldiers from that unit that stays back stateside during the deployment. And they wanted me to take command of that rear detachment. But the problem was that rear detachment had 0 full-time staff. So normally a National Guard unit has 2 full-time soldiers, a readiness NCO and a supply sergeant. So the readiness NCO handles all of the administrative stuff and the supply sergeant all of the supply and logistics stuff, because it is a full-time job to manage a part-time unit. um, this had neither of those. So it
Mm.
was going to be essentially my responsibility as the part-time commander to work full-time maintaining this unit. And on top of that, I was going to have to sign for like a multi-million-dollar property book without a supply sergeant, which I was not willing to do.
Yeah.
um, so it just it was also basically going to defeat the purpose of me moving to Kansas. The whole reason I moved to
Sure.
Kansas was to do full-time CrossFit and pursue, trying to make the CrossFit Games. And if I took command of this, I wasn't going to be able to do that. So I ended up deciding that I was just going to get out. I had done at that point like 9 or 10 years in the Guard, and I felt like, I served my time. I was a couple years past what was required on my contract, um, and I didn't really want to do it anymore. So I got out of the Army and went headfirst into CrossFit.
When you were deployed in Qatar, can you speak about, like, what was your job role when you were deployed?
Yeah, I was the medical operations officer for an infantry battalion. So
Mm.
our unit was deployed to one of the bases in Qatar, and our mission there was base defense. So there was a base that was, housing equipment back for the Middle East, and our job was to make sure that the people coming onto the base were allowed to be coming onto the base. Um, so we just basically protected that base for 9 months. My job specifically as the medical operations officer, I was responsible for all of like everything medical for our unit. So I had medics that ran the aid station, um, or the clinic where soldiers could go if they were sick, got hurt, anything like that. I was also responsible for making sure that the medics maintained their training. So medics in the Army are also certified through the National Registry of EMTs. So they have continuing education units that they're required to do every 2 years to maintain their certification. So I was responsible for making sure that they did their continuing education credits. And then I had to basically like track everything medical for the unit, making sure that people were getting their vaccines that they were supposed to get, making sure that if people were injured and needed duty investigation, that line of duty investigation was being completed. Um, we had like a group of soldiers that were going on a mission somewhere else and had some additional medical requirements that they had to get done. So I had to coordinate getting those medical requirements done so they could go on that other mission. So it was just like all of the medical logistics, medical operations.
Dang. A lot of different experiences, though, that really have made up 30, just over 30 years of your life. Like, truly, you have so many diverse skills that what would you say is something that you've been able to use in all of these different fields that you've been in, like from the Army to CrossFit and now to being in the lab? Like, what is that one skill?
Just adaptability and being able to have all these different experiences and, drastically different job requirements, job descriptions, across a lot of things that I've done, and figuring out uh, figuring out the commonalities, but also the differences, and being able to adapt to each different experience that I've had. Um, yeah. That's a
Do
tough
you have
question.
family that did you have family that served, or what initially piqued your interest to do ROTC and then progress through there?
Yeah, so both of my grandfathers served. I think one was in the Army and one was in the Air Force. That was never really like we weren't like a military family. Um, and then when when I was getting ready to start my first year of college, I was going to UC Davis for undergrad, and I got a recruiting letter in the mail that summer from the ROTC program, and
Yeah.
they were like, "Hey, you can join the Army." And, they send it to everybody. It's just the recruiting mailer. And I
Yeah,
get it in the
yeah.
mail, and I kind of joked about it with my mom. I was like, I could join the army. And she was like, good joke.
Sweet.
And then my dad saw it, and he was like, well, you could if you wanted to. I was like, no, I can't. I'm fat. I'm out of shape. I can't do that. And
This is
the
all before
army's
CrossFit.
yes, yes. This was when I was eating a lot of Taco Bell and hated exercise.
Same. Cheesy gordita crunches and a Baja Blast. That really takes me back.
Yeah, right.
Oh
Um,
my god. Mhm.
and so he was like, "Well, he is not a bunch of superheroes. It's a bunch of regular people. Like, if they can do it, you can do it."
Yeah.
Um, and he told me that one of his biggest regrets was not taking the opportunity to serve his country when he was younger.
Mhm.
And I'm very similar to my dad in a lot of ways, and I felt like I would have had that regret if I didn't at least try it. So I joined the ROTC program just to try it out the first year. I wasn't under contract or anything like that. I was just taking the classes, kind of getting a little bit of the experience to see if I liked it. And I ended up enjoying it. I applied for a scholarship at the end of my freshman year, and I got a 3-year ROTC scholarship. So they paid for my last 3 years of college. So at
Oh,
that
that's
point, I was
awesome.
locked in.
Yep, yep. You're good to go. That's the ticket home.
It was a lot like pretty much everything else I've done in my life, which is I have this opportunity and I don't want to live my life with regrets.
Mhm.
So if I have an opportunity that's not going to be like catastrophic to take, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
gonna take it and see what happens. And
When
it's worked out well for me so far.
when you did ROTC, were you on the drill team or were you in the shooting club or did you do any of those, we'll call them extracurriculars that like are under the umbrella?
So the extracurricular that we had ROTC program was Ranger Challenge. And
Oh, tell me, what is
actually,
that?
so our Rangers are like the super hardcore guys. And
Yeah.
Ranger Challenge is an annual competition in ROTC where you compete against other Ranger Challenge teams from other ROTC battalions. Um, and so there was a Ranger Challenge team, and uh, I joined the Ranger Challenge team. I was an alternate, so I never actually did the competition. But the third year that ran the Ranger Challenge team, and he was actually the very first person to introduce me to CrossFit. So we did
Wow.
regular physical training Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That was like the PE class that everybody in ROTC had
Yep.
to take. And then Tuesday, Thursday, we had Ranger Challenge training, which was only required if you were on the Ranger Challenge team. And we would go to the gym on campus Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and he would take us basically through CrossFit workouts. He taught me how to row on a rower, like a Concept 2 rower. And every time I row, I hear his voice in my head saying, legs
Oh
back,
my god.
arms, arms back, legs back, arms, arms back, legs.
It's just
Um,
ingrained, living rent free.
yep, yep. So, and at the time, I wasn't thinking that I would ever like actually do CrossFit. It was just what he did and what he used to train us for Ranger Challenge. Um, so yeah, that's my ROTC extracurricular.
It's fascinating to me because I actually did NJROTC when I was in high school. And I
Okay.
absolutely loved it, and I was seriously like, when I was looking at colleges and universities, my number one priority at the time was, okay, who has the best dance team? But then the second one, because I didn't know what I wanted to study at school at the time, was, okay, maybe let me look into some of the ROTC programs. And then when I realized that a lot of them you had to commit, between 5 and 7 years, I just was not at a place that I was willing to do that. But for me, I would say that when I look back at my life, that truly is one of the only regrets I have is not serving time in the military, but as we said before, everything happens for a reason. I don't think my life would be where it is now if honestly, I probably would have been somebody who stayed in the military my entire life. Like there was so much about it that I loved. I loved the structure. I loved like the fitness aspect of it. I was on the drill team and all of those little things. So I was curious what your extracurriculars were.
Yeah. And actually I thought that I was gonna be somebody who stayed in for my whole life.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it for a while, but I just got to a point where I felt like I had given everything I could to the Army, and I had done my time, and I was past it at that point. But when I first joined, my plan was to do a full 20. I was actually, um, I think the last year group that was offered or that was brought into their traditional retirement system for the Guard, where you would have to do a full 20 years in order to get a retirement from the Army. Um, and so we were offered the opportunity to switch into the blended retirement system, which was a way that you could get a retirement for doing less than 20 years. But it was kind of like a
Oh.
prorated retirement. If you did a full 20, you would get less than the traditional retirement system. So it was like traditional retirement system, all or nothing, but you get more. Blended retirement system, you can get some retirement for doing less than 20, but if you do a full 20, it's smarter to stay traditional. And I was so convinced that I was going to do a full 20 that I did not opt into the blended retirement system. And that's probably my biggest regret.
That sounds so good right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts. It's fine. Here we are.
Here we are again
You
talking about how amazing 401ks are.
I know, I know. But truly, like, you have so much on the horizon, so many cool things going on. Other than that, like, what are some of the next steps for you? Just getting healthy and, working out to get ready for the competition in October?
Getting back into as much as I can in the gym. I've been able to get back on a barbell a little bit, which is exciting. I was able to do some kipping pull-ups a couple weeks ago, which was really cool. I did some wall walks. So kind of just slowly getting back into everything in the gym. Um, doing this competition in October. Um, and hopefully more competitions after that. We'll see. Um, like I said, I don't know necessarily what level that's going to be at, but I will still always want to compete as much as I can. Depending on how my recovery goes and if I can uh, get back to kind of like the strength that I was at before, I might try to do grid next season. Um,
Okay, okay.
yeah, so we'll see if that works out, but that really depends on if I can get back to moving heavy weights because I was supposed to be a strength specialist for the team. And if I can't be a strength specialist, I'm kind of useless to a grid team. Um,
I feel that.
so yeah, the grid is really cool in that way, but it's also like very niche in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you gotta perform at what you're good at.
Yes. So we'll see if I can get to that by the time the grid season starts next year. And then just getting into hopefully this new job and starting a real adult life, maybe settling down somewhere, maybe starting a family. So
Is there a man in your life?
there is.
We buried the lead. We buried the lead. Okay, how much do you wanna spill right now? Or we can take it offline,
Um,
whatever you feel more comfortable with.
maybe we'll
Regardless,
take
I gotta
most of it
know.
offline.
Okay, okay, great, great, great.
But we met a couple months ago, playing a social deduction game. It's called Blood on the Clock.
What's
And
that?
it's okay. I learned this game from Ali Scuds of all people.
Okay, love it.
So it's have you ever played like Mafia or Werewolf?
No. Are they board
Okay.
games? Card games?
A social deduction game. So like in Mafia, I think you have like a card deck and everybody gets a card, and if you get a certain card, that means you're part of the mafia. Um, and then basically everybody's just kind of like standing in a circle trying to figure out who's the mafia, and they like you have to get rid of the mafia in order to win, but then the mafia is trying to get
Oh.
rid of everybody else in order to win. So it's kind of
Oh,
like
I
a good
love those
versus
games.
evil
I
thing.
know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah.
So there's a game called Blood on the Clock that's like a significantly more complicated version of that. And you can play in groups from like 5 to 20. Um, and I learned it when I went to visit Allie a couple years ago in Vegas. She plays it all the time, and she like brought a group over to the house and we played. She taught me how to play. And then I didn't play for a while because I didn't really have time. I didn't have anybody to play with. And then when my injuries happened, I was like, I have time to do fun things now. So I found a group that was playing maybe like an hour away from where I was living, and went and played with them through moving to California, a couple connections between the people I was playing with in Nevada, and now meeting people to play with in California. Started playing pretty frequently in California, and I met him at one of the
Mhm.
games.
Wow, what a great story. And you met in real life, that's even
Right?
better. You didn't even need to, like, continue the swiping chaos at the
Swiping.
dumpster fire. Oh my god. When you quit swiping, life gets much better.
Really, honestly, it does.
Oh, Leah, I'm so happy for you. Okay, I gotta meet this man. I gotta make sure that he is good enough for you. But
Oh
seriously,
my
I'm so
gosh.
happy for you. That's so exciting. You deserve to be with the sweetest man ever that's gonna be kind and caring and supportive to this new journey of your life.
He is all of those things. So,
Good, good. Well, I'm so happy that we had some time to catch up.
thank
I can't
you.
wait to eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, see you in person. But if not, I'm gonna be rooting for you from afar, and I can't wait to hear about the new job.